Hi, I'm Georgia Fruchinick. I'm a special education parent mentor for Coweta County Schools. And today I want to talk about back to school. Okay, so I did two transition trainings for parents, one on transition to middle school and one on transition to high school back in May. And I made this statement: when schools reopen, all students will struggle to adjust. I agree with that statement still, but I want to revise this statement, okay? So when school starts virtually on Thursday, all students, parents, guardians, teachers, grandparents, administrators, we're all going to struggle, okay? But it's going to be okay, and we're going to figure it out. So today I want to take a few minutes and talk about preparing for school starting, kind of expectations around what to expect and what to expect from our kids, and then asking for help. It's really important that we ask for help when we need it. There's so much going on right now that everything feels so out of control. And I would say that we're all struggling a bit with this. And for me, everybody's got to figure out what works for them. For me, what works for me is to focus on the things that I can control. I can't control the pandemic, but what I can control is my own mindset, and I can control my behavior, and I can control the way I view things and what I do. And so having a specific program around managing my stress and anxiety has been really important for me. Staying in today is important because anxiety really exists in the future and the what ifs, and it's scary. And so for me, I have some mantras, and I'll give you an example of kind of how this works. I think sometimes we hear information or we're scared or something happens and we start telling ourselves a story about things that are going to work. And the story's not necessarily true, but it's the story that we're telling ourselves. And so I think it's very important that we are curious about our own thought patterns, and we catch ourselves when we find ourselves getting into some of that negative self-talk, so we can turn it around. And we can help our kids do this also, but I think it starts with ourselves. It's not reasonable to expect our children to manage anxiety if we can't manage our own. So I'll give you an example of the way this works. I had some news that I got last week that was really difficult. And I started with this self-talk started telling myself, I can't do this. I'm not going to survive this. This is going to be impossible. I can't do it. I can't do it. Like I was repeating, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. And guess what? If I believe that I can't do it, I'm not going to be able to do it. And so once I realized that I was starting some of that negative self-talk that's really creating patterns in my brain. And you think about a path out in the woods. The more you walk the path, the deeper the path is going to get, and the more well-defined the path is going to get. The same thing happens with our brains. The more we allow some of the negative self-talk to repeat, the more entrenched it gets. And so when you realize you're doing it, if you can turn it around, it can help you. And so in that situation, when I realized I was doing it, I changed my self-talk. And I started saying, yes, this is going to be hard, but I can do hard things over and over. I can do hard things. Another one is I am built for struggle. When my kids were little, and we still talk about it a little bit now, we talk about building our struggle muscles. Just like we build our heart and we build our arms and our legs, we have to build our muscles, and the struggle muscle is one of those muscles that we also have to build. And what happens is the more we struggle, the stronger that muscle gets, and then we're stronger as people. And I think if you think about your past, the times that you've really struggled have really made you stronger, and they've made you who you are today. It's not fun, for sure. But I think saying that, yeah, we're built for struggle sometimes is helpful. Another one that's helpful is I will do my best, and that's enough. Because sometimes we do our very best and we still feel like it's not enough. That not enough doesn't serve us well. And so accepting that our best is enough, accepting that our children, they're doing their best, that's enough. Accepting that can really be the key sometimes to helping us manage anxiety. Striving for excellence and not perfection is another one. As a recovering perfectionist, I can say is helpful sometimes. And the cool thing is, I get to decide what excellence is. Other people don't decide that for me. I strive for excellence, and then I get to decide what success means and what is excellence. Um, and then a huge one is I cannot control other people. I'll say that again. I cannot control other people. I can only control myself. Sometimes I get into a thing that if I can just say the right thing, or if I can convince someone of something, then I can control them and change their behavior. I can't control anybody. I can't control anybody, but I can control myself. That gives me control. And so accepting that sometimes is helpful. So I don't know what your mantras are, but I encourage you to maybe have a family meeting, talk to your kids, talk to your husband or partner, and kind of think through what are those things that you can have, you know, on note cards or handy when you find yourself getting into some of the negative self-talk. Because if you're having a lot of negative self-talk about starting school virtually, if you're telling yourself, my kids can't do this, this is going to be a nightmare, my kids can't do this, then guess what? They're not going to be able to do it. But if you have reasonable expectations on, we're going to do this, we're going to do the very best we can. And we're going to define what success looks like, and we're going to celebrate the success, then I think you will have more success and you'll be happier and calmer. And so I encourage you to spend some time thinking about this. One of the questions that I've gotten a lot is, how am I going to do this? I think everybody's got to figure that out on their own. For me, I'm going to take it one day at a time. Sometimes if one day at a time seems too much, I might bring that back to, I'm going to take it 1 hour at a time. I'm going to have reasonable expectations for myself and for my kids. Sometimes I think that I can accomplish way more than I can actually accomplish. And so I'm going to set some goals, and then I'm going to rethink them. And so having expectations for your kids around this virtual learning is going to be important. If your child struggles at school with focus and attention, then it's reasonable to believe that your child's going to struggle at home. And so I don't think you can necessarily, the IEP doesn't make the struggle go away. The struggle is still there. And so we have to figure out, how do we manage the struggle? And we have to figure out how to be flexible, because things are going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. The internet's going to go out because lightning's going to strike, or the servers are going to crash, or there's going to be things that happen, and we have to build those in, and we have to expect the unexpected. We've got to learn how to be flexible. One of the things that is helpful to me is distinguishing naughty from neurological. And I think sometimes we see behavior and we think it's naughty behavior, and we think harsh consequences and discipline is the way to go. Where often, if you've implemented consequences that are reasonable and developmentally appropriate, notice I didn't say age appropriate, developmentally appropriate, and the consequences haven't changed the behavior, then it's likely that the behavior is not naughty, but the behavior is neurological, which means it's brain based. And so what you can do then is you can start thinking, you can be curious instead of judgmental. You can be curious on, what are the behaviors, what is going on in the brain, and how do we teach the skills and put in place things that are going to help improve that behavior. And that's where that partnership with your IEP team and the communication with your case manager is going to be super important. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. Another thing is meeting them where they are. I think a lot of times we want, I know for me, I want my kids to be at age level, and they're not. They're developmentally behind in some areas. And so say you have a 10-year-old and you meet him where he is he may be more like 5 developmentally. And so meeting them at 5 and bringing the bar, raising the bar from where they are, bringing the bar up and teaching skills is going to have a lot more success than trying to force him to be at 10 where everybody's frustrating because he can't meet those expectations. He's not there. And I know I see this a lot with parents of kids with ADHD because maybe they have kids who are intellectually bright, but they really struggle in the areas of executive function. Executive function is basically managing yourself and your stuff. And what they don't realize is the research shows that kids with ADHD and similar neurological disorders are 3 to 5 years behind in the area of executive function. So while your child may be intellectually a 10-year-old, in the area of managing himself and his stuff, which is focus and emotional management and all of that stuff, he may be more like 5. And so having those expectations and raising the bar from where they are sometimes can really help build success. And I encourage you to find the success. Even if it's super small, if all we have is negative, then kids feel like they have failed. And if a child continues to feel like they have failed, they'll give up. And so we have to find the success. We have to celebrate the success, even if it's small. And then also, I think it's important to prioritize our relationships. I think sometimes we get so focused on the expectations of school and therapy and all of the busynesses of our jobs and all of that stuff is that we forget why we had kids. And I know for me, I had kids because I want relationships with my kids. And if I stay connected to my kids and I have those positive foundation, then everything else gets easier. And so scheduling in some time, even though it's difficult, to have positive interactions and prioritizing your relationships can be really important. Okay, and so I wanted to share, I put ACE on the slide because I wanted to make sure that I shared that with you. It's a tool that I learned in Sanity School that for me is helpful. And so say we have the situation that you log into Infinite Campus and you find out that your middle schooler has 8 missing assignments. And you see the assignments, and some of the assignments, you know those assignments, you know he did those assignments, and so you're not sure why he has zeros in those assignments. Okay, so I take 4 deep breaths whenever I feel upset or angry or anxious, or whenever I feel like I might say something that I regret. In that situation, I would need to take 4 deep breaths before I said anything. And so then you go to your middle schooler and you use ACE. And so the first one is acknowledge kind of what the situation is. I love Ross Greene's work. And Ross Greene, instead of saying acknowledge, he says notice. And so what he might say is, I notice that you have 8 missing assignments in Infinite Campus. And then he's going to be quiet and see what happens. It's hard to be quiet because I always want to fill in with what might have happened. But so if I go to my middle schooler and I say, I notice you have 8 missing assignments, and then I'm quiet. And then I find out what's going on, and I may find out that there's a technological issue. I may find out what is going on, and then it allows me to have compassion. And to be able to have compassion, you've got to be able to take someone else's perspective. So in this situation, I've got to try to put myself in the shoes of my middle schooler. And a lot of times I know with classes, they're supposed to turn in the work at the end of class, but they're also focused on getting to the next class. And there's just so much going on. The work doesn't get turned in, it gets stuffed into the backpack. And so having compassion around that, yeah, I know it's hard, and can help the connection, and then can help the next step would be explore options. So we've identified what the problem is. maybe that the bell rings and I'm trying to get to the next class and I forget to turn it in, then we can explore what are the things that we can do to help. What kind of reminder can we set? We can explore options together. And I will warn you that you may feel like you've got it all figured out. And I've definitely in this situation where I feel like I know the answer, but the kids sometimes have a better answer than we do. And so exploring options together can really be helpful. Okay, so I throw out ACE as a tool to kind of remember it. It's acknowledge, compassion, and explore options. And then remember, this is an explore options is a collaborative thing. It's not just you doing it by yourself. Okay, so I've been doing this work supporting parents for 13 years. I've been in the parent mentor job for 4 years. And before that, I was with a nonprofit that supported parents who have children with disabilities called Parent to Parent of Georgia. And when I was at Parent to Parent, I was able to do a presentation at the Family Engagement Conference, which is educators and parents coming together. And the presentation was called Partnership versus Advocacy, Can They Coexist? And it was a rich discussion. I'd love to do that presentation again because we really were able to talk through some of what partnership looks like between parents and educators. And I feel like right now is the most important, like it may be more important than it's ever been for parents and educators to have a strong partnership. So let's talk about those two words and kind of how they fit together. A partnership is when two people or parties come together to work toward a common goal. And so for school systems and for parents, we're all working toward our kids. We want our kids to get the best education they can. We want them, the law actually says that we are preparing children for further education, employment, and independent living. It's going to look different for every kid, but that's what our goal is. And we share that goal with educators. And so when we have a common goal and we're partners and we're working toward that goal, kids benefit. There's tons of research on this, kids benefit. But the interesting thing is that the law requires educators to be partners with parents. There's all kind of things built in. That's why you get notices of IEP meetings. That's why you have your parent concerns as a section of the IEP meeting. That's where there's all kind of things in place in the law that requires educators to work with parents on behalf of kids. The law doesn't say that parents have to be partners with educators. And what I find is sometimes they're not. Sometimes parents don't want to be. They want an adversarial relationship, an us versus them relationship instead of a partnership. And I have to tell you, I've studied this. I mean, I've been doing this work a long time. And what I see happening is kids get the best education when parents and educators come together and they work together. They find their common ground. It doesn't mean that they agree all the time. We can disagree, but if you disagree in a partnership, you disagree in a way that's respectful. There's not a lot of blame. You disagree in a way that's respectful, and you disagree in a way where you understand each other's perspective. I like Stephen Covey's work, and he's got a quote that says, seek first to understand and then to be understood. And I think that's important in a partnership. I think it's important that educators understand the perspective of parents and that parents understand the perspective of educators. And we can't do that if we don't communicate with each other. So that communication is absolutely crucial. And then advocacy is if parents come to the table and advocate for their kids, that partnership is going to be stronger as long as we do it in a way that strengthens the partnership. As parents, I believe that our kids do better when we understand what's going on with our kids, we understand their disability, and when we know what our rights are, and we can advocate for our kids and for their rights in a way that strengthens the partnership. Okay, so can they coexist? Absolutely, they can. And if you want some more discussion on that, send me an email or give me a call and let's have some conversation about that. Okay, so as far as going back to virtual learning and organization, the school is going to provide some structure as far as when classes meet online. They're going to record the classes so you can watch them later. But I encourage you to create some structure at home. And I encourage you to work with your child on creating whatever that system is and maintaining that system. It's easy to have a system. You see in the second bullet, using the system regularly can be difficult. And so it's going to take, it's not going to be a one-time thing. It's going to be a constant thing on having the system and checking in on whether it's working or not. That communication with the case manager and the teachers is going to be crucial, because there's going to be things that we need to tweak, and we should tweak them. Avoiding blame and lectures and yelling and all those things aren't productive. They're not going to help. But if you can get to if you can be curious instead of judgmental, and you can get to the problem and get to the root cause of it, then you can put in place something that's going to help. And so I encourage you to collaborate with your child, as well as his IEP team and his teachers, his general education teachers, to figure out what that looks like. And don't be afraid. If things are not going well, don't be afraid to say that. Say, this isn't working. What can we do to help? Because I know in the spring, I talked to a lot of parents who were having trouble with the virtual learning, and it's going to look very different this time than it did in the spring. But that doesn't mean it's going to be just, that it's going to be easy for all kids. It's not going to be easy for all kids. But I talked to a lot of parents who are really beating themselves up about it and not necessarily communicating when they need help. And so I encourage you to communicate when you need help. Okay, so you got questions. Who do you ask? The school's websites are a great source of information. Visit your school's websites because they're going to have some good information. Ask your teachers, your principals, your assistant principals if it's a school-related issue. If it's an IEP-related issue, don't go to the principal, because the IEP is really driven by the special education team. And so if you've got an IEP issue, then go to the case manager. You can ask the in-school coordinator, or you can always call the district special ed staff, and you can always send me an email and ask me also. Okay, so every single child that has an IEP has a case manager. I'm hoping that you've heard from your case manager by now, and if you haven't, then call the district office and ask, and tell them you hadn't heard from your case manager yet, because they want to know that. Also, you may want to check and make sure that your information in Infinite Campus is correct. Because sometimes what happens is we try to reach out to parents and we can't get in touch with them because maybe something has changed. And you may have put in an email to a teacher like last year and updated information like phone number, but if it didn't get in the Infinite Campus system, then like on that little white card, then it's not in the system. So make sure your information is correct. The case manager can schedule an IEP meeting. If you want to schedule an IEP meeting, they can help you communicate with teachers, they can problem solve, and they can support you and answer most of your questions. So what if your case manager can't answer your questions, or you have a disagreement with your case manager and you're not seeing eye to eye? You also have a resource that is the in-school coordinator. And so what this is every school in Coweta County has an in-school coordinator. And so that person is at the school level and is in charge of special education, coordinating special education services with that school. And so the in-school coordinator's job is to support the case manager as well as the students and the parents. Hold on one second. Okay, so you can reach out to the in-school coordinator. Another option would be you can reach out to the district special ed staff. So if you've got a question, you don't know who to ask, maybe you don't know who your in-school coordinator is, you can look online to find out, but you can always call the central education office, ask to speak to somebody in special ed, and they can get you to the right person. So the way the district special ed staff works is they're at the district level, so they're not the school level. They may have like one special ed program specialist might have multiple schools. They're supporting the schools, they're supporting the in-school coordinators, they're supporting the case managers, the administrators, the students, and they're also looking at things to make sure that we are in compliance with federal and state rules. And so those are going to be the folks that are going to really make sure that we're providing a free, appropriate public education to students with disabilities in the least restrictive environment. And those are going to be the folks that are looking at the laws and the rules to make sure that we're in compliance with those. And so you can always call those folks and talk to them. Okay, so make sure that you're looking at the school website, I already said that, and that you're getting accurate information. If you see something that doesn't feel right and it makes you upset or whatever, find out if it's true, because there's a lot of misinformation going around, and I think people are well-intentioned, but they're misinformed. So you want to make sure that you're getting information from sources that are accurate, and don't spend a week worrying about it. If you hear something that doesn't sound right or that you're concerned about, pick up the phone and call or send an email, because we can't help you if we don't know what your concerns are. Ask the school for other opportunities to be informed. Lots of schools have social media accounts, and so you can follow your school on Twitter or Instagram, or there's other ways to get information. I encourage you to stay calm as possible, because we want our kids to be calm, because we learn better when we're calm, and everybody needs to figure out that on their own. I can't do that for you. I can tell you what works for me. Having a meditation practice really helps me stay calm. I meditate at least 15 minutes a day. I have an app that I like called Headspace, and I can change the way my brain is processing and the way I'm feeling by doing that. Getting some exercise. I would love to say that I'm one of those people that exercise 2 hours a day. I'm not. But getting 30 minutes of exercise every day or even every other day, it changes the way I feel. It really does. And so whatever works for you, I'm not sure what that is, find something that works for you, and don't be afraid to ask for help. There are especially right now, there are so many resources that are out there to help us. There's tons of mental health resources. I talk to a counselor once a week, and I can talk to her on telehealth, so I don't even have to go into the office anymore. And that's so helpful to me. There are counselors who are adding counselors to their practice. We have some resources within the school that can help you locate a counselor for your child or for yourself if you want to. There's no shame in asking for help. So I encourage you to do that. I also encourage you to stay connected with the things that are most important to you. These are my kids and my sweet husband. And I would say connections with them is more important than anything else. It's more important than virtual learning, to be honest. It's the most important thing I got. And so staying connected and keeping my focus on that is going to help me stay calm, and it's going to help me stay focused. Okay, so here's my information. My goal as a parent mentor is to help you as parents of kids with disabilities not feel so alone. It can be very isolating. I get that. I try to provide information and resources. I don't have all the answers. I got way more questions than answers if you get to know me. But I can listen, and a lot of times I know who to ask if I don't know kind of what the answer is. You can reach out to me on this phone number. It's a text, so you can call or text. You can email me, and sometimes email is good too. You can find my information on the special ed website, and I'm here for you. And I'm going to go back to my original statement is, yeah, we're going to struggle. We're all struggling right now, but we're going to get through this, and we're going to be we're going to be okay. And actually I feel like I'm developing a pretty good, strong struggle muscle with all this. So we're going to be stronger in the end. So let me know what your questions are. Let me know what your thoughts. I hope this has been helpful, and we'll stay in touch. Have a good day.